I have a poem for you this morning to begin with. It's from a collection of poems called County Lines. 87 Minnesota counties, 130 Minnesota poets. And this one is by Philip Dacey. It's in reference to a place called Bagels and Brew in Marshall, Minnesota. And the title of the poem is The Regular. Grandpa McGinn made a home at the corner bar. He'd enter, nod, and the drink appeared, a bud. I've always wanted to be a regular, to be at home away from home, not far, but just enough. There, in dim light, freedom stood, a bottle like a name, McGinn, on the polished bar. He'd lost his first home, Ireland. Mary Moore made a second for him in the neighborhood where Nolan's, a third, counted him a regular. So his ghost was whispering in my ear when the door of Bagels and Brew first opened. I knew I had to make a home at my local coffee bar, to enter, nod, and watch the owner pour a dark roast blend, my choice, without a word. And I succeeded. I'm now a regular. To be known, even in miniature, family without the knives of blood. I enter to be saved, nod like one at prayer, a light as dim as in the home of God. Grandpa McGinn made a church of the corner bar. My communion's black, no sugar, and regular. So, other than confessing that he and his grandpa both went to church in some place other than in a church, what's he saying in the poem? What does it mean to be a regular? Jesus and his disciples are in the upper room. They are sharing what will be their Last Supper. Jesus knows this. The disciples are becoming aware of this. And in John's version of the story, in John's Gospel, this particular portion of the story is 5 chapters long. It's significant. Scholars refer to this as the farewell discourse. And in that 5 chapters, Jesus prays at length for his followers. He promises them a home ready for them and waiting in God's house when they are ready for it. He washes their feet. He gives them that command to love one another as they are loved. And he gives them this image. He says, I am the vine, the true vine. Now, the vine, the grapevine, is a symbol of Israel. And in Jesus' eyes, Israel at this point has been led astray by corrupt leadership, needing correction. These leaders are in cahoots with Rome. They're more concerned about enriching themselves than taking care of the people, the community. So Jesus, among other things, is trying to lead and create a reform movement within the Jewish people. So it's an inside Judaism kind of conversation or argument going on here. And that's why Jesus says, I am the vine, the true vine. Not to be confused with the vine that's twisted out of shape now because of bad leadership. I'm the vine. God is the vine dresser, the gardener, and you are the branches. Now, here is one more of those I am statements that John is well known for, and I am being a name of God, linking Jesus and God as one. So you have the image that comes together, and the disciples, okay, I got the picture sort of. So what does that mean in terms of what we do? What are the disciples supposed to do in terms of this metaphor, this relationship? Are they the ones that are supposed to, kind of gather as a little team and go out and make sure the vines are healthy and clip this and trim that and take care of all those things? No, not their job. Are they supposed to go out and drive around with their little four-wheel pickup trucky kind of thing and gather up all the branches that have broken off and dried up? And as we refer to the dead wood in the community, and we do that quietly, but that sometimes there are people who are part of the church that aren't really participating, contributing, or they can be the problematic ones that just make trouble. Are the disciples supposed to go out and gather those problem people, the dead wood, the troublesome, weird wood, and haul it out and then burn it? No, though that has been done in church history, and church people have done that. Are they supposed to monitor the productivity of the vine and make sure that it's putting out, creating what it's supposed to, and make sure all the branches, all the little members are giving as they're supposed to and showing up when they're supposed to and participating in the committees and teams as they're supposed to? Is that what they're supposed to do? And maybe add some fertilizer as needed. And you don't need to make any connection between sermons and fertilizer. That's not necessary. That's already been done. Is that the job of the disciples, of the community? No, it's not. All of those things, according to this metaphor, this parable, are in God's domain. God takes care of that stuff. That's God's problem. So what are the disciples supposed to do? What does Jesus say? Abide in me as I abide in you. Notice it's in, not with. We have that hymn, abide with me, fast falls the eventide. That's a different thing altogether. This is talking about something deep. How do you do that? And why is it important? The why is easier to answer maybe than the how. In terms of John's gospel, it's very practical. If you are on your own, you're vulnerable. And in his time, survival is not assured. It's a day-to-day thing. So hanging out with others, staying connected, is essential to your survival and to mine. John also has his own agenda, and it's written into his gospel. He wants to make sure his community survives. And as people are being ushered out of the synagogue, those who still claim that Jesus not only was Messiah, but was God in the flesh, they're being told, we don't want you here anymore. As they're sent out, if they don't hang together, then the community of John dies. The community of Jesus dies. And so John is saying, you got to stick together. We got to stick together. We got to hold together. Abiding in and with one another is important, but abiding in is a deeper thing. And I think it's something that we are rediscovering the necessity of even now, during this year particularly. We kind of took it for granted 2 years ago that we could go anywhere we wanted to when we wanted to go there. We could show up here on Sunday morning if we wanted to. No problem. Now we can't go to our regular places, or haven't been able to like we want to. We can't be with the people that we love to be with because of this virus. The people that love us and are glad to see us even though they know us really well. We haven't been able to be together. Our lives, we've had a year of social irregularity in the body, if you will. We are irregular and we feel it. We're anxious, we're edgy, we're fearful. There's depression. There's this sense of, I want to go back, but I don't know if I can now. I don't know how to do this anymore, and I'm afraid that I might get sick. All of that is in us and is around us. We feel it. And though jammy church, as we call this sometimes, is lots easier, simpler than getting up, getting cleaned up, getting dressed up, and coming here or wherever you go. And Zoom meetings are handy, and there's lots less aggravation and gas, money put out, and time spent driving and all of that. still we long for something more, something deeper. We're made for it. So maybe Jesus' words, these words that are so familiar for people who have any sort of church habit, maybe they are more intensely speaking to us now because of our present experience. Abide in me as I abide in you. And it's not the same as hanging out together. It's much deeper than that. Think what it means to live into the creative word and energy of God that makes and sustains the entire universe. What does it mean to live into, to abide in, to reside in that? That's deep. And it's an everyday thing. We know it when we experience it, I think. StoryCorps is a national program that invites people to come together and talk to each other, share your story with others, record it, and talk about the things that matter, the things that connect you, that hold you together, those things that are precious to you, and why you are, your lives are interwoven. It's just cool stuff. I listened to one this week, such a simple thing. Mary Mills set up this conversation with her mother. And the title of it is The Mom Everyone Wanted for Their Own. And they lived in Southern California. And they'd obviously been talking a little bit before the recording began. But Joyce, the mother, Joyce Carter Mills, asks her daughter Mary, so how was I different from other parents? Parents kind of want to know that sometimes, if it's good. You know, if it's a good comparative. We like to compare if we come out looking okay. She wanted, how was I different than other parents? And Mary said, I didn't even think about other parents. There was no comparison. I remember, she said, a time when you took all of us little kids in the neighborhood to the beach. Do you remember that? You piled us all in your Ford Maverick with the black vinyl seats and no air conditioning. And you have all these little kids in there, and you take off, and then you say, now we're all going to sing a song together. And Mary said, we're all different ages and different backgrounds. We don't know the same songs. And so you said, well, you all know Christmas carols. Everybody knows Christmas carols, so let's sing a Christmas carol. Hark the herald. And everybody starts singing. And so here we are, all these little car full of little black kids, sweating to death in the middle of summer, going to the beach in this Ford Maverick, singing Christmas carols at the top of our lungs, and having a wonderful time. And you're leading it. Mom, that's the kind of parent you were. No other parents were doing that kind of stuff. And she said, well, no other parents are crazy enough to do that sort of thing. And Mary said, no, it wasn't crazy. It was fun. It was alive. That's why everybody wanted to be at our house. Everybody came to our house, and you were why, Mom? It was you. And Joyce thought for a moment, and she said, I remember one day, I was in the kitchen. You were about 7 years old, I think, and you came in, and you had your little friend Arturo by the hand. Arturo was about 4. And you haul him in, and you say, he needs lovin'. Here. And you shove him at me, and you unload him, and you go back outside to play, and you leave him with me. I didn't know what to do with him. So he and I made cookies together. And you all enjoyed those later on together. And we had a wonderful time. And Mary said, yes, exactly. That's the kind of parent you were. You always had more than enough love to give away to whoever was there, kids or anyone. And it wasn't just available. It was in the air. It was the atmosphere that you created. The conversation goes on for some time. And it's just, there's this sweetness. They laugh. And the respect, the admiration, the love that they have for each other is so evident. It comes through time and time again. It's just a lovely conversation that warms your heart. And at the end of it, Joyce, the mother, says, it makes me really sad that we're not kinder to each other than we are. It makes me sad that so many people have closed themselves in or off. They don't seem to understand that what is going around is what's coming around. And that's how she ends. But as I thought about that, the question that seems to invite is, what do we want to come around? We can't necessarily control everything, but we have some say in it. What do we want to come around to us, to our children, to our grandchildren, to our friends, to our neighborhood, what do we want to come around? In the poem that I began with, he talks about being irregular, about being accepted, being welcome, having a place, being known, being received, being at home in this place that isn't necessarily my first home. How do we do that? How do we find that? How do we engender that, cultivate that, provide that, create that? Abide in me as I abide in you, Jesus says. That's when the productivity begins. That's where it arises from. Sounds to me like it's not something we do, but it's more who and what we already are. So, amen.